So good morning and welcome to the Sunday service for the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox. Before I do the announcements, I saw this after I prepared the message and it really spoke to me. So I just wanted to pass it on. It's an Apache prayer. And it goes like this: looking behind, I am filled with gratitude. Looking forward, I am filled with vision. Looking upwards, I am filled with strength. Looking within, I discover peace. So this would be, I'd say this every week, it'd be a good time to turn your phones off. And I was sitting there realizing I forgot to turn mine off. So if there's anybody here for the first time or looking on during the week that's never been to a Center for Spiritual Living before, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. Today is birthday Sunday, so we're not going to make you sing, but is there anybody here whose birthday is in December? Nobody, huh? Well, you know, we say that Christ is in everybody, so he's here.
Hey, Ron,
Yes.
my birthday is the 31st of December.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Okay.
Are you having a soul, Papa?
Yeah. The party at Bob's house.
I noticed he didn't answer. So I just want to reiterate, and Mr. Lombardi, I don't think you're aware of this. So Becky and I were going to tell you personally, December 17th, this is for everybody, but Joe's a pal. December 17th, we're going to have a potluck and Secret Santa here from 1 to 3:30. You don't have to do the Secret Santa if you don't want. You can just come to the potluck. It's too late to do the Secret Santa, but we'd love it if you come and do what'd you say? Oh, okay. Seriously, we'd love it if you would come. We're not going to do a service on Sunday, the 25th. We're going to do this service Saturday night, the 24th, and we're going to do it. Unity is doing their service from 5 to 6. So I thought we would match and do our service also the 24th from 5 to 6. And the only other announcement I have is today is a board meeting, and anybody that's a member is more than welcome to stay and listen. They get really exciting. So, you know, don't do it if you don't have a good heart. But we do have paddles. I'm just kidding. But really, anybody is invited to stay and to participate. Even if you're a member of another church. Again, you're up.
So let's just go within. Take a nice breath in. And as you release it, just allow yourself to melt into that remembrance that you are one with Spirit, that you are one with Spirit, that presence of love and harmony, wholeness and peace, that is the source and substance of all of our lives. And let us commend our awareness and our love into this presence, allowing ourselves to feel the love just flowing through every piece of our body, allowing our heart to feel that love flowing over and expanding out into the area around us and beyond, that we may be that presence of love that we were born to be. And I give thanks this morning for everybody who contributes to making this service a very holy spiritual one, a one of love and laughter and community, friendship, support. And I give thanks for Reverend Dr. Ron for the words that he's going to share with us today. For each of those words will tap into our heart space and open up an awareness within us, a new idea, a new thought, a new understanding, that we may go deeper into our relationship with the source of our being. And for all of this, I give thanks, and so it is.
Good morning. And thank you, Ed, for the lens wipe so I can actually see what I've written in here. Fate, destiny, kismet, God's will, karma. Many spiritual paths have a concept of a future over which we seem to have limited control. So if our future is predetermined, what is our role in it? How does prayer fit in? It's a heady topic, and I, for one, do not know, really. But there is evidence that prayer works, and we are told that we have free will. How then does this reconcile with the idea that God's will be done in the end? Well, here's how I've resolved it. It seems to me that God created the framework and natural laws in which the universe operates, but the details are left open. Everything must happen in accordance with natural law, but exactly what happens can be influenced by all of us. Our present is a result of the thoughts, choices, and actions we've taken to date. Our future will be the result of what we think, decide, and do today. Also, I believe God has set up the laws to respond to signal strength. This means to me that the strength of our desires and preferences matters both individually and collectively. I think this is why prayer and manifestation practices work. Fear is a strong emotion. The stronger the fear, the more powerful it is. This signal strength can outweigh our efforts to avoid the fearful thing. So it seems to me a better strategy is to focus on the positive, to give no energy to anything we don't want. Prepare, yes, but do not dwell or energize things that are undesirable to us. God's will, I don't know what it is, but I plan to align my energy, thoughts, actions with what I prefer, being mindful of what that is.
So you all just got a lesson in what we teach. And now I'm going to tell you what God's will is, see? So that's the topic of my talk today, God's will. And so I want to begin with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who said, and this is it, anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, and greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. So Holmes also said that God gave us a really great gift in that he gave us ourselves. And what that means is that we are spontaneous, self-choosing centers in life. That's what you were just mentioning about free will. We are spontaneous, self-choosing centers in life. What more could we really ask for? We can have our own opinions, and we can have options on what we want to do. We get to live the life we choose. And God's only prayer for us is to be everything that we can be, to enjoy our time here on earth and not to harm one another. Our belief system is the only thing that holds us back. If we believe that we're not going to be able to do something, we're not going to be able to do it. If we believe that we probably can do something, then we probably are going to be able to do it. Why? Because whatever we accept as truth creates our boundaries. Whatever we believe is our truth. And if we want to expand our boundaries, we need to change our beliefs. The Japanese philosopher Dojin said, if you can't find the truth where you are, where are you going to find it? And Louise Hay said, looking at our truth, she said, in our beliefs, she said, every once in a while, we need to ask the questions, is this true for me now? Where did this come from? And would I be better off if I released it? When we develop a spiritual practice and work with it, the universe comes to our aid. We start to run in to the right people. We pick up the right book, or somebody recommends the right book to us, or the right workshop, and we start to see our intuition at work. So in short, what it is, synchronistic events start to come into our lives. We're moving from being ego-centered to being God-centered. And it isn't God telling us what to do, it's God responding to our own invitation. So just what is a spiritual practice? So I want to read something. I'm going to tell you what I think it is, but I want to tell you what Thich Nhat Hanh said it is. He said, spiritual practice is not just sitting and meditating. Practice is looking, thinking, touching, drinking, eating, and talking. Every act, every breath, every step can be practiced and can help us to become more of ourselves. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. But to me, a spirit, and I agree with what he said, obviously, or I wouldn't have read it. To me, a spiritual practice is prayer, it's meditation, it's journaling or writing affirmations, it's reading something, it's music, it's walking in nature, it's anything that deepens our connection to spirit. And for some people, it's one thing, other people, it's another. I meditate and pray, of course, but I like to listen to music. My wife is an artist. She gets it sitting down and doing her art, and time flies and it connects her. The key to it is being consistent. We need to practice every day, because becoming more spiritual, growing more in our consciousness isn't a hit or miss thing. Ernest Holmes tells us divine guidance is ours for the asking. And he said, it's not enough to know that divine guidance exists. You must use it too. So I was reading something from Mary Ann Williamson this week, and she said that she knows everything in her life is not going to work out the way she wants it to, but she knows she'll be okay no matter what. And I thought about that, and I thought it's because Mary Ann Williamson is prepared, okay? Mary Ann Williamson knows how to pray. Mary Ann Williamson knows how to meditate. Mary Ann Williamson knows how to write affirmations. Mary Ann Williamson has spiritual people in her life that she can go to when she's hurting and say, I'm hurting, help me. You know, she has a spiritual practice that she can rely on to get her through the tough times. And I was thinking this week, when your life turns upside down, it's too late if you haven't been practicing. When your life is terrible, you can't say, oh man, I meant to do that. Or where is this? It's got to be, that's why I said before, it's got to be consistent. let me read to you a quote that she wrote. She said, "I have trust, but not because I trust the world, but because I trust the God within. I place my life in the hands of God each day. I trust that he knows what he's doing, even when I don't." So, moving within, when we seek the wisdom of spirit, enables us to surrender. We let go of the idea that we have to do everything ourselves. And we open to the possibility that the one that created everything might know as much as we do. So I thought that was funny. In essence, we move ourselves to a higher plane. We go from being ego-centered to being God-centered. And we realize that we don't have to do it all alone. We have an all-powerful creator working with us. In fact, we might even ask, why didn't I do this sooner? So I do a lot of reading to prepare these, but I was reading something from Jack Kornfield, the Buddhist teacher, this week. And he has a quote attributed to the Buddha. And here's the quote: "There is praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disruption. Did you think this wouldn't happen to you?" To me, the quote says, in life, we get the full spectrum of everything. And when we get tough times, we might feel like we're alone, but we aren't. And we have the strength within us to move past difficult times. And the spiritual question isn't why. The spiritual question is what's next? Meaning, if we have difficult times, saying, why did this happen to me, is really useless. Saying, where do I go from here, is the spiritual question. What am I going to do? How am I going to proceed? Let me give you a couple of examples about being alone. So I've told this story before, but it just fits so well. Kornfield writes that he and Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun, were doing a workshop for 2,000 people. That alone blows my mind. 2,000 people. And at some point, a woman stood up and said that her life partner had committed suicide fairly recently. And she said that, I'm hurting, I'm grieving, I am in so much pain, and I feel so alone. And Jack Kornfield, I thought, having done workshops, thought of this wonderful idea right in the spur of the moment. He said to the group, will anybody whose life has been touched by suicide, by a family member or a friend, would you please stand up? 250 people stood up. We aren't alone. And the way to healing is to know who we are. When we know who we are, we can trust our innate strength, our innate courage, and our innate wisdom, all of which are within us, wherever we are. Let me give you one more example that kind of blew my mind. I read a few years ago about an interview somebody had with Barbra Streisand, like a huge superstar. Barbra Streisand's dad was a very cold person when she was growing up, and she found it really difficult to gain his approval. And this reporter said to her, so if you hadn't been trying to seek your dad's approval, would you have gone into show business? And she said, no. She said, no. And what that said to me, that even in the worst moments of our lives, And for a little girl, what could be a worse moment than trying to get your dad's love? That could lead to our greatest triumphs, because we have that power, that strength, that courage, that wisdom within us. We have an all-powerful creator working with us. So I want to tell you, a few years ago, I saw a survey that asked two questions. And this is kind of going back to what Thich Nhat Hanh said about spiritual practice. So the first question was, do you believe in God? 90% of the people said that they believed in God, okay? The second question was, what is your conception of God? What do you think that God has to do with your everyday life? And almost nobody could answer that question. The point is, for me, that God has everything to do with our everyday life. If we let God in, we begin to see our life as God-centered, and then we're on the path to spiritual enlightenment. So I want to tell you two vignettes from Anthony DeMillo, who was a Jesuit priest, and I see some people shaking their head. I know Joe Lombardi really thinks a lot of him, and I do too. I want to tell you two vignettes that he wrote about spiritual enlightenment, and then I want to close with a quote from him. So the first story is, a woman is somewhere and she's admiring a necklace that a native is wearing, and it's got teeth on it. And she says to him, what's the teeth? What are they? And he says, they're alligator teeth. And she says to him, oh, I see that alligator teeth must have the same value to you that pearls have to us. And he says, not quite. Anybody can open an oyster. DeMillo says, an enlightened person understands that a diamond is just a stone until the human mind sees it differently. And things are as big and small as we make them to be. Any situation, any appearance in our life is as big or small as we make it to be. And the second vignette that he wrote on spiritual enlightenment is a traveler goes up to a shepherd and says, I wonder what kind of weather we're going to have today. And the shepherd says, it's going to be the kind of weather I like. And the traveler says, how do you know you're going to like it? And the shepherd says, I found out I can not always have what I like, so I've decided to like what I see. And DeMillo writes, happiness and unhappiness are in the way we meet the events. They're not in the events themselves. So he's saying anything that happens to us, we make the choice. Is it good, bad, indifferent, or what? It's not inherent in the event itself. So I want to close with a quote from DeMillo. He said, spiritual quest is a journey without distance. You travel from where you are right now to where you've always been, from ignorance to recognition. For all you do is see for the first time what you've always been looking at. Who ever heard of a path that brings you to yourself, or a method that makes you what you've always been? Spiritually, after all, is only a matter of becoming what you actually are. So thank you for being here this morning or watching us this week, and God bless you. I heard that. But Jerry, I forgot to mention this in the announcements. Next week is going to be a really different service. I'm not going to say a whole lot about it, but I think it'll be, well, I'll just say that it's going to be really different. So you don't want to miss it. So if we could now go into our bulletin and repeat the prosperity affirmation in the last page. Oh, I forgot to ask our usher to come up. See, we have a junior usher this week. Our regular usher has a sore ankle. I live in a consciousness of good, divine love, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Beck, you missed somebody. So my wife will shoot me for doing this, but before we do the closing prayer, I'm going to ask you all for some prayers for my wifey here. The Centers for Spiritual Living gives out awards. And in the past, I've won the Meritorious Minister Award and Beck's won. Here I am asking for prayers for you and you're dissing me. And I think I know what it is, but Becky in the past has won the Meritorious Practitioner Award. And I nominated her this year for the Arts Award for the history of all she's done in arts for us around. And one of the things you do is you have to give references. And so I gave 3 references, and I found out yesterday that they've contacted all the references, which to me is a really good sign, because if they didn't like our artwork, they wouldn't have bothered to contact the references. So I'm just asking you, if you think about it, do some prayers this week, because I'd love her to win it, even though it would mean she has 2 awards and I only have 1, which I'm sure I'll never hear the end of. Yeah. Hey, we've been married long enough for me to know it. So how about if we just take a moment and just go within and know that the divine presence is always with us, that God's will for us is to be us, to be all we can be, to be all we're meant to be, to step into our strength, our power, our courage, and our wisdom, and to live our life through those qualities, to live our life with the strength of spirit, the courage of spirit, the wisdom of spirit, and to know that as we go through life, we touch not just ourselves, but our community, and we make a difference in this world by being who we are. In CSL, we talk about creating a world that works for everyone, and we do that one consciousness at a time, one person at a time. We're all capable, we're all able to do that, because the divine presence, that Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, that God within is everywhere we are all the time. And as my friend Pat Perkins would say, God is good all the time. And for that, I just give thanks, release the word, and let it be. And so it is. So if we could stand and do our closing song, and then we'll do the closing affirmation, and we'll hang out right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my mind.
Life is in my body.
Life is in my body.
Life is in my affairs.
Life is in my affairs.
I receive it.
I receive it.
I share it.
I
I am it. And I accept it. Just the way that it is. And just the way that it is not. Thank you, life. And so it is.